Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, a little show that endeavors to bring you issues in Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, the world, you name it. I'm Robin Adair, and with me, as always, my co-host with the most, the Croatian sensation himself, John Jurisic. And John, right off the top, we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of people are discussing. That is the irresponsible behavior of some people on social media.
Robin, this is now a trend, being extraordinarily mean and combative on social media to folks that are reaching out to try and represent our interests politically. Why do they have to be attacked so badly? Case in point, Janice Williams is running for Victoria Council, and she is being attacked. A female professional is being attacked mercilessly. Well, what craziness, what insanity that's going on social media. Janice Williams, hello, Victoria City Council candidate for October 15th. Janice, please give us your sort of reflections. I think it goes without saying that you got to be shocked by the offensive tone of these messages. Is there some feeling beyond that? Like just
it is shocking and it's frustrating, and I think what a person realizes is during a campaign and on social media, you are going to see both the best and worst of people, and it's really frustrating to see that aspect on social media because it can be quite abusive. And I'm just really thankful for those that, see it as abusive, see it as inappropriate, and take a moment and go, wait a second, why are you treating this person this way? What's your motivation? Because I do feel like a lot of the negative messages or the negative approaches on social media are a result of people who frankly feel threatened.
Are there any threads or tones of messages sort of regularly that make you particularly angry?
The personal attacks are something that I think are really offensive. I've also seen spoof accounts, for lack of actual accounts created for the specific purpose of harassment.
Yeah.
And that really steps over a line.
Mm.
The bit that I really worry about, I'm a mom. As you know, I've got a 12-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. And cyberbullying is a big issue. And I worry a bit having my kids potentially see their mother be cyberbullied.
Yeah.
And I hope that my response to that, look, this person doesn't know me in real life. This person is making assumptions about who I am and why I'm running and what I'll do if elected. Here's the mute button. Here's how I can't control what other people do, but I can control how I respond to it. Right? And if their intent is to push my button and goad me into doing something, the best thing I can do is not do what they want me to do.
It's just startling that you and I are actually having this conversation and how it's impacting our children and how they have to think about this.
And parents have to think about it.
Right? So what does this say then about, I suppose, politics in general, women in particular, who are running for office today and now must walk through this wall of social media abuse and bullying?
It's a minefield. It really is. And I worry that it creates an additional barrier, particularly to parents or women. And it is a little different for women, I think, in part because we wear so many hats and we're expected do so many things. And when we're venturing into an area that perhaps isn't an area that we've seen a lot of women, there's a lot of challenge and pushback to that. And I worry that the environment, if it's toxic, rather than seeing progress there, we're going to have a real challenge in terms of getting really qualified people to throw their hat in the first place.
I'm very impressed with Janice Williams, her determination to run. And it's disgusting to see the way people are targeting women that want to run for political office. It's just not right. I didn't like seeing Krista Freeland being harangued as she got out of an elevator, and a guy came after her in Alberta, said, "Get out of Alberta." She was raised in Edmonton. It's disgusting to see people behave like that. It's thuggery, and it's really bad on social media. It has no place in our political system. I wish people would learn and listen, but I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
Totally agree with you, Robin. Totally.
Speaking of listening, I'm hearing bad things from the TD Bank about the housing market. Dire warnings about things going for a big slide. John, what do you think?
Well, you and I've been around the block. I think some people sense that. If not, well done. And we've worked and lived through probably 6 or 7 recessions. And in each of those recessions, going over the past lot of years, it's always been this sort of, well, the housing market's going to collapse. And it never did, except in 2009. There was a significant collapse in 2009. TD Bank is now saying, Robin, as you indicated, that the value of a home is going to drop by 25% in 2023. I'm not so sure about that. I think there are interest rate pressures, no doubt. There are global pressures, no doubt. There's tremendous uncertainty that will impact a lot of people who've invested in real estate and a lot of folks who are relying on a good economy to make a good life.
And I worry about the younger generation, John. I worry about these young people that we want to stay in the community. We need them. We need people to work in our service industry, our tourism industry, the up and comers. If they can't afford to live here, why would they stay? It's a problem. It's a worry, because baby boomers are getting out, moving to condos. They're moving to Vegas. They're moving all sorts of places. And, the housing market is so high right now. It's a nosebleed. So who knows where it's going to go? We're going to keep a close eye on it. But as I talk about the boomers, I also talk about the big labor shortage. We don't have enough people in important jobs at our airports, at our ferries. It's a worry, John.
And those two issues are coupled together tightly. If we have expensive housing, then we can't get young people to live in our cities. We can't have people come to Canada and work for us. Canada was built upon immigration and upon young people filling the jobs as we start to retire. So we wanted to dig a little deeper onto this immigration side and find out if, in fact, that was the current answer to this job market madness, Robin. So we tracked down Victoria's Ali Dadkhah from Infinity Law, who's been helping foreign nationals land work permits. And now, joining us to talk about the ways foreign workers can really help get our economy moving forward is Ali Dadkhah with Infinity Law, a Victoria firm that supports foreign nationals in obtaining their work permits and permanent resident status in Canada. Great to have you in the Rumble Room, Ali.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for having me here today.
Oh, absolutely. We feel the worker shortage every day we see it, we feel it with ferry lineups, airport delays, coffee shops closed. Many businesses throughout the province are struggling as baby boomers retire and job positions remain unfilled. Ali, you have a big job ahead of you to help right this ship, to help get us to full capacity again. Can immigration have an immediate impact on our current labor woes?
There's no short answer for that, John. So this labor shortage we have is not something that just came out of COVID. This labor shortage has been around for some time. And we are kind of kicking it down the road till COVID really came up and just made the problems even more known and more known than before. Like before COVID, the main sector that was struggling as a result of labor shortage was hospitality. For example, most of the restaurants. And since during COVID, the hotel industry has been added to that mix. And like kind of down the road now, we are seeing more and more construction and manufacturing businesses that are really suffering as a result of labor shortage. And the labor shortage we're seeing today is not just a shortage of labor. It's like kind of the current labor force that the businesses have are not really at the stage the employers need them. There's a high turnover, for example, in hospitality at the moment. The employers tell us it's really difficult to keep an employee for more than 6 months. They train them for 3 months, and a couple of months after they're gone.
You said that COVID hasn't been as big a factor in some ways, but it certainly has slowed down immigration numbers into the country. And I think we've been all feeling that because it's also been happening at the same time that people have been let go of jobs because of COVID, and people haven't come back to those jobs. And all the time, the baby boomers, and I guess I'm guilty in that category, have been busily retiring. We knew this was going to happen, but it seems to be happening more rapidly around this COVID period. And there's this huge gap. And I guess foreign workers are now seen as maybe a stopgap. And I understand that there could be a lot of people that have been waiting to come to Canada that are now going to be racing in here. We're going to have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of foreign workers coming in, and this has to be managed. I guess this is where you come in with your services, because these people and the employers are going to need a lot of help bridging this.
Right now, there is a very lengthy processing time for some of the visa offices to kind of bring workers into Canada. On one hand, we are saying immigration is a solution, but on the other hand, the way it's been working now, kind of slowing it down. And it's not a very simple process either. It's not kind of an intuitive process for an employer to just like kind of pick up the phone or pick up the application, fill it in, sending it to the government of Canada. Yeah. There's a lot more steps involved in it. And
Ellie, there's logjam all over the place of foreign professionals, international students who've potentially already been approved to come here. You, in your answer, just talked about the red tape involved. Are travel restrictions now becoming easier? Are they being minimized? Are they being eased?
They are being eased. The travel restrictions for certain group of people are being eased. But there's still a lot more. If we want to use immigration as a viable solution for the current problem, there's still a lot more optimization, John, that needs to be done. Streamlining of the process. There are various conversations I've noticed happening right now in the Construction Association and the province of BC to have an expedited application process for construction workers. That one main thing that comes out of all of those is they all know there are a lot of inefficiencies. They're trying to expedite it, but it hasn't been expedited enough to catch up with the current problem. So yeah, some stuff has been happening, but we are far away from where we need to be.
I want to talk about one of the elephants in the room, at least as far as Canadian society goes. We have a massive doctor shortage in Canada, and it particularly being felt in British Columbia, where 1 out of 5 British Columbians don't have a family doctor. And there's a big debate about how do we retain our family doctors still in practice? How do we make up for the doctors that are graduating out of our medical schools who don't want to be family doctors? And one of the areas that we are exploring is bringing in more foreign doctors and more foreign health professionals, nurses and other professionals. And there has been resistance on an official level. The College of Physicians has really put up roadblocks in the past to mitigate the number of foreign doctors that could come. And we haven't had a flood of foreign healthcare workers up until now, but you feel the tide is turning. Is that something you think is going to really change? Are we going to see a lot more of this in the very near future, in your opinion?
You touched on a very sensitive topic right now. It's kind of like a topic of debate in many forums. yeah, there's a shortage of doctors. There's a shortage of nurses, which COVID kind of showed us, wow, how many nurses we are missing in our system. What happened if our nurses get sick? I mean, who's going to cover their shifts? So yeah, and these debates have been going on for so long, and there is no shortage of actually doctors coming to Canada. A lot of doctors immigrate to Canada. However, they cannot practice being a doctor. We have a lot of doctors, for example, coming from India, from Iran, from some of the other Middle Eastern countries. And they've been dentists in their back home, they're being doctors, nurses. Once they come here, there are lots of hoops they have to go through. That licensing process here is very burdensome. Even someone who's been a doctor in their home country for years, they've gone to medical school for 7 to 10 years, the College of Physicians requires most of them to go back to school here for 3 to 4 more years again. I mean, that's a new family into Canada. They need to kind of make money. They need to support their family. That person is not going to choose going to medical school for 3 to 4 years, which is not cheap. As we know, in Canada, is very expensive.
Yeah.
They would decide to become, sadly, a cab driver. Sadly, they get into profession, which is our basic labors in Canada. So there is no shortage of doctors here, but they cannot practice what they can practice because of all the hoops. The tide is turning a little bit, but it's really a little bit.
Ali, you're always on the lookout, clearly, I suspect, for Canadian employers in need of people. One of your tasks, I suspect, as a lawyer, is to help employers understand the labor market impact assessment, the LMIA, which is a process that shows a shortage of Canadian workers are to do a specific job. I guess this is a good thing. However, because it prevents the public from complaining that good jobs are being stolen by immigrants. Do you get that kind of sense from Canadians when as you undertake the LMIA process?
There is a deeper issue, John, we have to look at there. I mean, we have to see what sort of jobs right now, what type of skill job we are working nowadays. I mean, if you notice, the kind of job I touch on hospitality, I touch on construction. Most jobs we are seeing nowadays being, there's a shortage, or I would say low skill, semi-skill, and entry-level skill position, like cook, chef, and these are the one manufacturing job, for example. There's a huge, there are drivers, bus drivers, truck drivers. There's a huge shortage of them at the moment. And these are jobs either most Canadians do not want to do, or there are not enough of them to do that. Now, what Service Canada is an authority who would give their blessing before any employer decides to bring anyone from a different country, from a foreign country. And that process, as you mentioned, is called labor market impact assessment. It's a very daunting, detailed process. Every job has to be advertised in 4 to 5 different sources. They have to actually show there is a shortage. No Canadians is either willing to apply or willing to work in that field, in that location. There's a very detailed process to show bringing that foreign worker into Canada is not going to disrupt the Canadian labor market, even though we do know there's a, I mean, everyone talks about it, the labor shortage. If it's for a cook position or it's for a manufacturing position, still Service Canada makes you to go through all those hoops to make sure there are correct right check and balances in place.
On the flip side of this, I'm just curious about how some of these other countries feel about the kind of work you're doing. I think about the South African government's unhappiness with Canada for taking and poaching so many South African doctors. It seems that across British Columbia, at least, we know lots of South African doctors that have landed here, and now the South Africans have asked us to cease and desist. Do you find there is resistance in some of these countries? Do they interfere at all when somebody shows a desire to come to Canada? Does the government resist? And are we competing with the United States, Australia, Great Britain? I mean, do we have to present the best scenario to get the best people to come here?
These are great questions. And yeah, we are actually, that's very interesting. This is coming up more and more in the recent years. This hasn't been around, the resistance from other foreign countries. This hasn't been around 3, 4, or 5 years ago. Right now, for example, employees coming out of the Philippines, they need to get a specific authorization from the labor ministry there before they're coming out. And I mean, let's say Immigration Canada has approved them here, their visa has been approved, they still need to get that additional approval from the labor ministry to come here. And they are more and more refusal on the Philippine governments. They kind of don't want to let those skilled workers to come out. I mean, the shortage we're talking about is not just a shortage in Canada, it's not just in BC, that's really hitting all over the world. And countries are trying hard to preserve their labor, specifically their skilled labor. Now, on the second part of your question, the competing, absolutely. I don't know if you read in the news about the shortage of truck drivers back in UK and Europe for transferring fuels from gas station to gas station back in UK 4 or 5 6 months ago. They did not have enough truck drivers. And what UK government did was they came up with a very competitive, expedited process to bring truck drivers from other European countries into UK. So that's on one side. The other one is, let's just not go so far. Let's just look at US. Actually, when we want to bring people from Mexico, workers from Mexico into Canada, we are absolutely competing with like businesses, with employers in US. Their cost of living in some states in US is a lot cheaper than here. Taxes are different, sometimes lower than here. And country situation are different too. When employers reach out to us and say, some of them ask for specific nationality, they say, I want people from Mexico, for example, because it's faster to bring them here, shorter processing time. Some of them we can bring under the NAFTA or the new NAFTA, like kind of expedited process for them. But then I tell them, yeah, but that sadly will cost you more because you're competing with an employer from US who has access to this exact same pool of workers too. So it's nothing that we are first at it, the labor shortage. Other countries are feeling the same need too, and we are competing with them for sure.
Ali, a final comment. We have lots of business folks that watch the Rumble Room. It gets a lot of exposure. So if they want more information to learn how to employ skilled immigrants in the future, how do they reach you? How do they reach your team?
Yeah, so at Infinity Law, what we do is we do the legal part of the process, basically dealing with Service Canada and dealing with Immigration Canada. We also have a recruitment company called IMM Recruitment. And what IMM Recruitment does is they basically have agencies in different countries, such as Brazil, Philippines, Mexico, and some of the Middle Eastern countries, to be able to have direct access to the labor, kind of reducing the cost of the labor acquisition for Canadian employers here in Canada. So they can reach out to me, or they can reach out to our sister company, IMM Recruitment, and we'll be more than happy to help them.
It's true, Johnny. It's true. The 25th annual Cops for Cancer Tour de Rock is going to be rolling out on Saturday, September 24th. 20 riders leading from Port Alice, that's at the very northern tip of Vancouver Island, and they're going to run down the island. They're going to race down the island over 2 weeks, stopping in a variety of communities. They finish up in Victoria on Friday, October 7th. And, we've had COVID the last couple of years. Things have been limited for the Tour de Rock, but they're back in full action now, training hard, and the riders are raising money. They're raising money as we speak, and that's why they wanted to get on the show now to get the word out, because they're looking for sponsorships. They want to support cancer patients. And Simon Douthwaite is a rider, organizer, works for the Canadian Cancer Society. He's with us. Let's zoom him in.
Well, welcome to the Victoria Rumble Room, Simon. We're not going to rumble today, so giving you a little break. Instead, we're going to hopefully inspire people to sponsor early and get excited about the upcoming ride. So first, this ride is from Port Alice on the island, top of the island, all the way down to Victoria. Tell us why this Cops for Cancer event still means so much after 25 years.
Thank you so much for having me on, John. I'm so pleased to be here. Yeah, as you say, it's got a long, distinguished history on the island, and there is such an amount of community involvement from Port Alice all the way down across to Tofino and down to Victoria and Souk. and we're covering all the communities there. And we'll be visiting 48 schools on the island this year, which is a record for us. I think a lot of those schools will be having visitors and events for the first time in a couple of years. So the 25th year is doubly special. We do have some catching up to do after the COVID years. We had a bit of a dip, and I think it's really important. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to be on your show so that we can get the message out there. It's 25 years of helping kids. We've raised over $27 million, and we're hoping to raise some more this year.
You know, it's funny. I was just thinking about the fact that this has been such a sustainable event and so well received for such a long time. Kind of a little bit like the Terry Fox run. When these events are well run, it doesn't matter that they have a similar format or a similar intent. There's different people participating, you have different people from the media, and it changes year to year, and other people get involved, and it's always exciting because of that new energy. Part of the energy is raising money and getting sponsorship. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what you're doing to get people on board.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Robin. Yeah, it's, as you say, it has maintained interest for a long time. 25 years is a long time, and one of the reasons is that riders are new every year, and you can only ride the tour once because it's such a tremendous commitment. And first responders, as you know, have busy day jobs already, and they're training 3 or 4 days a week, and they're going to fundraising. So the riders themselves are very involved in their own fundraising over the course of 8 months leading up to tour. And we have some standing sponsors such as Thrifties and Peninsula Co-op, who are very important to us, Trek, who provide us with bicycles, and Black Press Media as well. And we have a lot of key sponsors, and we're always looking for more. And particularly the last couple of years, we did, I'm sad to say, lose a couple of sponsors. So we are on the hunt for more sponsors, and it's such a great cause. I think you can see it in the communities and the schools. When we come to visit, there are always people there with connections to cancer, and it's such a tremendous community event. The riders go to tremendous efforts. They're in town halls. There are raffles that are being produced. There are all kinds of events, whether it's spin-a-thons, whether it's Dodds Furniture, you know, corporate. There are all kinds of events going on weekly, and it's a tremendous commitment from the riders and the community. And then we have legions up and down the island having barbecues, and you know, RCMP as well, having barbecues and raising money, whether it's in Ucluelet or Port Hardy or Port McNeill or down in Victoria, Mill Bay, Shawnigan School. There are fundraisers at schools. There's a fundraising barbecue happening at Shawnigan Lake School on October 4th, which we're really thrilled about. And so it's a series, generally, apart from a couple of headline sponsors, it's a series of smaller events, and that's part of the beauty of it, because there are so many events across the island. It's quite incredible, really, to see.
Just an overwhelming story, Simon. I'd like to get a little bit into the sort of physicality of the whole thing. Okay, like we see the riders, we see them. Eventually, you're going to be on the news every day, etc. I don't think most of us really get the sort of physicality around this. A lot of the riders have been police officers from up and down Vancouver Island. And of course, a lot of these officers stay in shape year round, but they still have to train for the event. I take it you're not a police officer, you're a layman. Have you been hard at training so you can be ready for the 23 stops over the 2 weeks on the road for this ride?
Absolutely, that's a great question, John. And yeah, I mean, you know, we do normally have, there's normally around about 20 riders. There are 20 this year, and we often have a couple of triathletes or people who are athletic, but you know, generally first responders are in reasonable shape. But quite a lot of our riders will not have ridden road bikes before, myself included. When I rode in 2019, I'd only ridden mountain bikes, and so it's a real learning experience. But the training is professionally done by police trainers. There's 8 months of training, and it's a real commitment. So a lot of the first responders and police officers will have been doing a night shift on a Saturday, and they'll get up Sunday morning and get out for a 6-hour training ride all day Sunday away from their families. That's the level of commitment. Tuesday night is hill night. That's normally a couple of hours. Thursday night is speed night. If you live in a community like Nanaimo, it's always hill night because it's pretty hilly around here, but it is a tremendous commitment, and you do see people getting fitter and fitter, but at the beginning there are falls. They're normally slow motion when people getting used to being clipped into their bicycles for the first time and that kind of thing. But it's amazing to see what is initially a series of 20 essentially strangers getting together and learning to ride, and then learning to ride in formation. And it's all a bit of a jumble in the beginning, because and it's naturally so. And then you see over a few weeks it start to take shape, and then the riders get their tour bikes, and then the riders get their tour gear once they've passed through the first couple of months and shown they're capable of riding, and they're awarded their jerseys in May, having started in March.
That leads me to a final question about why you ride. And I understand you have a personal reason, besides the fact it's great for the community, it's great to get involved, it's that team work and getting to know people for lifetimes. You have a personal stake in this.
That's right, Robin, and thank you for asking. It's my youngest daughter, Chelsea, is now a happy and healthy 11-year-old girl, but unfortunately that wasn't always the case. She was diagnosed with leukemia just ahead of her 3rd birthday. My wife grew up here on the island, but we weren't living on the Vancouver Island at the time. We were in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and we'd only just got there. We weren't able to leave because airlines won't fly you, and we did go through an awful lot of year of treatment in Kuala Lumpur, but we wanted to come to Vancouver as soon as we could, to the island. And we actually heard about the Tour de Rock while we were in Kuala Lumpur from my family over here, and we had pictures of the riders inspiring us on our fridge in Kuala Lumpur. And when we arrived on Vancouver Island, the Tour de Rock wrapped us up. They came to my daughter's school when she was able to start participating. And I will never forget my whole life the feeling of support from the entire community when that Tour de Rock rolled into my school. First you hear the sirens coming, and it's such an emotional thing. The whole community rallies behind you, and I've not seen anything like it anywhere else. And you know, my daughter's been able to go to camp and meet with other survivors of her age. It is an absolutely incredible, meaningful event, and it means a great deal to me personally. It's obviously changes your life going through this kind of thing. My daughter as well now, and you wouldn't know the difference, but it's, you know, myself, I've ended now working for the Canadian Cancer Society and coordinating the Tour de Rock, and it's just such a magnificent event. There are kids up and down the island who the riders spend time with, who've been in treatment, who are in treatment, and in addition to raising funds for cancer research, without which kids like my daughter would not be alive today, because they all used to die from leukemia. It makes a tremendous difference. The money we raise, the camps that the kids can go to, and the community involvement and awareness that the Tour de Rock brings.
Congratulations to everyone involved in the Tour de Rock. It's such an important cause. And when you support the Tour de Rock, and cancer is something we can all relate to. We have it in our families, we have it in our friendships, we have it in our communities. We're all concerned about it. This is a way we can battle cancer, because in many cases, cancer can be beaten. And this is a great way to show solidarity in taking it on. And John, on that happy note, it's time to wrap up another show.
You're absolutely, Robin. You know, this is the first big Tour de Rock, sort of in what we'll call a post-COVID period. It's not really, but clearly a ton of people are going to be involved towards such a strong cause. Robin, we so much appreciate this, all the folks watching our program, and we always encourage people to send emails and messages, good or bad. Tell us what you think of the issues of the day. We'd like to get these out on a fairly regular basis. You know that you can access our site, our show, through Facebook, through Twitter, through YouTube, through Instagram, and through TikTok, and continue as we sort of start a new year after the summer is finished. We appreciate everyone watching our program. Anyway, my name's John Jurisic.
And you know what? It does feel somehow like the beginning of a new year in September. All those years we went to school and played hooky. Anyway, it reminds me of that. And it reminds me to say, once again, I'm Robin Adair, and rumble on.